we present The Franchise Affair by Josephine Tey, dramatised for radio by Ellen Dryden, with Tessa Peake-Jones, Margaret Tyzack and Ben Daniels. It was 4 o'clock of a spring evening, and Robert Blair was thinking of going home. But when you are the only Blair of Blair, Hayward and Bennett, you go home when you think you will. And when you live in Milford, where the last post goes out at 3:45, the day loses whatever momentum it had long before 4 o'clock. It was not even likely that his telephone would ring. No one would ask him to dinner, because in Milford invitations to dinner are still written by hand and sent through the post. And Aunt Lynn would not ring up and ask him to call for the fish on his way home, because this was her bi-weekly afternoon at the cinema. So he sat there, in the lazy atmosphere of a spring evening in a little market town, staring at the last patch of sunlight on his desk, and thought about going home. At exactly the same time on every working day, Miss Tuff bore into his office a lacquer tray, covered with a fair white cloth, and bearing a cup of tea in blue patterned china, and, on a plate to match, 2 biscuits.
Petit beurre, Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Digestive, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
It was when his eyes rested on the blue plate where the biscuits had been that Robert experienced that odd sensation in his chest again.
This is all I'm ever going to have.
And with the thought would come that moment's constriction in his chest, almost a panic reaction. Why should this foreign thought thrust itself on him and cause that dismayed tightening under his ribs? What had his life lacked that any man might be supposed to miss?
Riches? Never wanted anything I couldn't buy. An exciting life. No, thank you. No greater excitement than a day's hunting or being all square at the 16th.
Perhaps, he thought, sitting staring at the blue plate where the biscuits had been, it was just that the childhood's attitude of something wonderful tomorrow persisted subconsciously in a man as long as it was capable of realization, and it was only after 40, when it became unlikely of fulfillment, that it obtruded itself into conscious thought, a lost piece of childhood crying.
Good afternoon.
Is that Mr. Blair? I was afraid you would have gone for the day. My name is Sharp, Marion Sharp. I live with my mother at the franchise, the house out on the Loughborough Road, you know?
Yes, I know it.
He knew her by sight, as he knew everyone in Milford and district. A tall, lean, dark woman of 40 or so, much given to bright silk kerchiefs. She drove a battered old car, and her white-haired old mother sat in the back, upright and delicate and incongruous, and somehow silently protesting. In profile, old Mrs. Sharp looked like Whistler's mother. When she turned full face and you got the impact of her bright, pale, cold seagull's eye, she looked like a sibyl. An uncomfortable old person.
You don't know me, but I've seen you in Milford, and you look a kind person. I need a lawyer. I need one now, this minute. I'm in trouble, and I remembered you, and I thought you would...
If it's your car, then...
Car? Oh, I see. No, it isn't a traffic offence. It's something more serious. It's Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard?
I haven't murdered anyone, if that's what you're thinking.
Well, are you supposed to have murdered anyone?
No, it isn't murder at all. I'm supposed to have kidnapped someone or abducted them or something. I can't explain over the telephone. I need someone now, at once.
But you know it isn't me you need. I know practically nothing about criminal law. My firm isn't equipped...
I don't want a criminal lawyer. I want a friend. Someone who'll stand by me and tell me what I needn't answer if I don't want to. You don't need a training in crime for that, do you?
No, but you'd be much better served by a firm who are used to police cases, a firm that
Are you trying to tell me that this isn't your cup of tea?
No, of course not.
Do you know what I feel like? I feel like someone drowning in a river because she can't drag herself up the bank. And instead of giving me a hand, you point out that the other bank is much better to crawl out on. Mr. Blair, do please come. I need you now. There are people from Scotland Yard here in the house.
2 miles out on the Loughborough Road stood the house known as the Franchise. The iron lace of the original gates had been lined, in some Victorian desire for privacy, by flat sheets of iron, and the wall was too high for anything inside to be visible, so that, except for a distant view of its roof and chimneys, Robert had never seen the franchise.
How long have they been here? 3, 4 years? What a disappointment. Sheer ugliness of the place. Everything that little bit wrong. Windows the wrong size in the wrong place. Door the wrong width, flight of steps the wrong height. I've never seen a house with a more unwelcoming, antagonizing stare. That round window in the roof, like a single malevolent eye.
I saw you coming. Do come in. I didn't want you to ring because my mother lies down in the afternoon and I'm hoping we can get this business over before she wakes up. I am more grateful than I can say to you for coming.
Oh, please, not at all. Grey, hazel eyes. I expected them to be bright brown.
The law is in here. This is Detective Inspector Grant from headquarters.
How do you do?
Good afternoon.
I'm glad you've come, Mr. Blair. I couldn't very well proceed until Miss Sharp had some kind of support.
I see. And what are you charging her with?
Well, I'm not charging her with anything at the moment.
I am supposed to have kidnapped and beaten up someone.
Beaten up?
Yes, beaten her black and blue.
Her?
A girl. She's outside the gate in a car now.
I think we'd better begin at the beginning.
Just before Easter, a girl called Elizabeth Kane, who lived with her guardians near Aylesbury, went to spend a short holiday with a married aunt in Mainshill, the suburb of Loughborough. At the end of a week, her guardians, Mr. and Mrs. Wynne, had a postcard from her saying that she was enjoying herself very much and was staying on. When she didn't turn up on the day before she was supposed to go back to school, they wrote to her aunt to send her back. The aunt wrote back saying that her niece had left for home a fortnight previously. And by the time the guardians went to the police about it, the girl had been missing for 3 weeks. And then she turned up. She walked into her home late one night wearing only a dress and shoes, and in a state of complete exhaustion.
How old is the girl?
15, nearly 16. She said she had been kidnapped in a car, but that was all the information anyone got from her for 2 days. She lapsed into a semi-conscious condition, and it wasn't until she recovered, about 48 hours later, that they began to get her story from her.
They?
The Wynnes. She said that while she was waiting for her return coach at the crossroads in Mains Hill, a car pulled up at the curb with 2 women in it. The girl said that she was waiting for the London coach, and they told her that it had already gone by. She was distressed about this because it was then 4 o'clock, beginning to rain and growing dark. They were very sympathetic and suggested that they should give her a lift to a place whose name she did not catch, where she could get a different coach to London in half an hour's time. She accepted this gratefully and got in beside the elder woman in the back of the car. She said something about it being extraordinarily kind of them to take her so far out of their way, and the younger woman said that it was not, in fact, out of their way, and she would have time to come in and have a cup of something hot with them. She was doubtful about this, but the younger woman said there was no point in waiting for 20 minutes in the rain when she could be warm, dry, and fed inside. Eventually, the younger woman got out, opened what appeared to the girl to be drive gates, and the car was driven up to a house which it was too dark to see. She was taken into a large kitchen. The older woman put some cold coffee on the stove to heat, and the younger one cut some sandwiches. While they ate and drank, the younger woman told her that they had no maid at the moment and asked her if she would like to be a maid for them for a little. She said that she wouldn't. They tried persuasion, but she stuck to it that it was not the kind of job she would take. Their faces began to grow blurred, and when they suggested that she might at least come upstairs and see what a nice bedroom she would have if she stayed, she was too fuddled in her mind to do anything but follow them. That was all she remembered until she woke up in daylight on a truckle bed in a bare little attic. She was wearing only her slip, and there was no sign of the rest of her clothes. The door was locked, and the small round window would not open, so...
Round window?
Yes, a round window up in the roof.
Presently, the younger woman arrived with a bowl of porridge. The girl refused it and demanded her clothes and her release. The woman said that she would eat it when she was hungry enough. She was alone till evening, when the same woman brought tea on a tray with fresh cakes and tried to talk her into giving the maid's job a trial. The girl again refused, and for days, according to her story, this alternate coaxing and bullying went on, sometimes by one of the women and sometimes by the other. Then she decided that if she could break the small round window, she might be able to crawl out of it onto the roof, which was protected by a parapet, and attract the attention of some passer-by. Unfortunately, her only implement was a chair, and she had managed only to crack the glass before the younger woman interrupted her in a great passion. She snatched the chair and belaboured her with it until she was breathless. She went away, taking the chair with her, and the girl thought that that was the end of it. But in a few moments, the woman came back with what the girl thinks was a dog whip and beat her until she fainted. Next day, the older woman appeared with an armful of bed linen and said that if she would not work, she would at least sew. No sewing, no food. So she mended some of the linen and was given stew for supper. Then one evening, the older woman brought the usual bowl of stew and went away, leaving the door unlocked. The girl waited, thinking it was a trap that would end in another beating. But in the end, she ventured onto the landing. There was no sound, and she ran down a flight of uncarpeted stairs, then down a second flight to the first landing. Now she could hear the two women talking in the kitchen. She crept down the last flight and dashed for the door. It was unlocked, and she ran out just as she was, into the night.
In her slip?
No, the slip had been exchanged for her dress. There was no heating in the attic, and in nothing but a slip she would probably have died.
If she was ever in an attic.
If, as you say, she was ever in an attic. She does not remember much after that. She walked a great distance in the dark, she says. Then, on a main road some time later, a lorry driver stopped to give her a lift. She was so tired that she fell straight asleep. The lorry driver woke her when they reached the turning where she wanted to be put off, less than 2 miles from her home. She heard the clock strike 11, and shortly before midnight she arrived back home.
And that's the girl in the car outside?
Yes. When the girl had recovered sufficiently, she was persuaded to tell her story to the police. She remembers seeing from the car a bus with a lighted sign saying Milford. She said she had never been to Milford, nor did she know where it was. She gave a detailed description of what she saw from the round window in the attic. Well, there is no other house between Larborough and Milford which fulfills the girl's description, except the franchise. When she first saw the wall and the gate today, she was sure that this was the place.
This girl, may we know something about her? Why guardians, not parents, for instance?
No, she's a war orphan. She was evacuated to Aylesbury and was billeted with the Winds, who had a boy 4 years older. About 12 months later, both her parents were killed in the same incident, and the Winds, who'd always wanted a daughter, were glad to keep her. She looks on them as her parents, as she can hardly remember the real ones.
I see. And her record?
Oh, excellent. Has never been in any kind of trouble in or out of school. Transparently truthful was the phrase her form mistress used about her.
Was there any evidence of the beatings she said she'd been given?
Oh, yes. The Wind's own doctor saw her, and his statement is that she'd been very extensively knocked about. I should like to say the Winds are very sensible people. They've taken the affair admirably.
And all that remains is for me to show the same admirable detachment.
Well, you see my position, Miss Sharp. The girl not only describes the house, but also the inhabitants, very accurately.
I can think of no explanation, but I do understand your position. Now I think we had better have the girl in. But before we do...
Ah, 2 strange men.
Let me present them, Mother. This is Mr. Blair, of Blair, Hayward and Bennett, the firm who have that lovely house at the top of the High Street.
Needs retiling.
Detective Inspector Grant.
You should not be sitting in that chair. You're much too heavy for it.
Mother? The inspector wants us to see a young girl who is waiting outside. She claims that she has been abducted and detained by people who wanted to make a servant of her. When she refused, they locked her up, starved and beat her. She described the house and the people minutely, and it so happens that you and I fit the description admirably. So does our house.
Remarkably interesting. What did we beat her with?
A dog whip, I understand. The inspector would like us to meet the girl so that she can say if we are the people who detained her or not.
Have you any objections, Mrs. Sharp?
On the contrary, Inspector. I look forward to the meeting with impatience. It is not every afternoon, I assure you, that I go to my rest a dull old woman and rise a potential monster.
Then, if you will excuse me, I shall bring her in.
You have my sympathy, Mr. Blair.
Why, Mrs. Sharp?
I take it that Broadmoor and criminal lunacy are a little out of your line.
I find it extraordinarily interesting.
Yes. I expect the distractions of Milford are scarce and mild. I'm reduced to pouring weed killer on weeds, a legitimate form of sadism on a par with drowning fleas. Do you drown your fleas, Mr. Blair?
No, I squash them. But I have a sister who used to pursue them with a cake of soap. She hits them with the soft side and they stick to it.
How very interesting. A technique I have not met before. I must try that next time. Ah.
Not what I expected at all. Much younger. Not very tall and certainly not pretty. But she's got what? Appeal? Those wide apart blue eyes, delicate cheekbones, mousy hair, lower lip too full, mouth too small. But that face certainly has charm, pathos, transparent truthfulness.
Yes. These are the women.
You have no doubt about it. It is a very grave accusation, you know. These two ladies are the women who detained you, took your clothes from you, forced you to mend linen and whipped you.
Yes. These are the women.
A remarkable liar.
You say that we took you into the kitchen for coffee. Can you describe the kitchen?
I didn't pay much attention. It was a big one, with a stone floor, I think, and a row of bells.
What kind of stove?
I didn't notice the stove. But the pan the old woman heated the coffee in was a pale blue enamel one, with a dark blue edge and a lot of chips off around the bottom edge.
I doubt if there is any kitchen in England that hasn't a pan exactly like that. We have 3 of them.
Is the girl a virgin?
That matter is irrelevant.
You think so? If I had been missing for a month from my house, it is the first thing that my mother would have wanted to know about me. However, now that the girl has identified us, what do you propose to do? Arrest us?
Oh, no. Things are a long way from that at the moment. I want to take Miss Kane to the kitchen and the attic so that her descriptions of them can be verified.
I see. A most admirable caution, Inspector. Ah, well, if you will excuse me, I shall go back to my interrupted rest.
But don't you want to be present when Miss Kane to hear the...
Oh, dear, no. I have not the faintest doubt that Miss Kane will identify the attic. Indeed, I should be surprised beyond belief if she failed to. For two people who are on beating terms, we are distressingly ill-acquainted. I hope to know you much better before this affair is finished, Miss Kane. Goodbye, Mr. Blair. I hope you will continue to find us stimulating.
Goodbye, Mrs. Sharp.
You have no objections to letting Miss Kane see the relevant parts of the house, Miss Sharp?
Of course not. But before we go further, I should like to say what I was going to say before you brought Miss Kane in. I am glad that Miss Kane is present to hear it now. It is this. I have never, to my knowledge, seen this girl before. I did not give her a lift anywhere, on any occasion. She was not brought into this house, either by me or by my mother, nor was she kept here. I should like that to be clearly understood.
Very well, Miss Sharp. It is understood that your attitude is a complete denial of the girl's story.
A complete denial, from beginning to end. And now, will you come and see the attic?
The bed was in that corner, and next to it was that wooden commode. And in this corner behind the door, there were 3 empty travelling cases, 2 suitcases, and a trunk with a flat lid. There was a chair, but she took it away after I tried to break the window.
These marks on the floor look very like the marks of casters.
There was a bed there. It was one of the things we got rid of.
And what did you do with it?
Let me think. Oh, we gave it to the cowman's wife over at Staples Farm.
Where do you keep your spare trunks, Miss Sharp? Have you another box room?
We do have a large square trunk with a flat top, but my mother uses it to store things with a chintz cover on it. My suitcases I keep in the cupboard on the first floor landing.
Miss Kane, do you remember what the cases looked like?
Oh, yes. One was brown leather with those sort of caps at the corners, and the other was one of those American-looking ones with stripes.
Are these the cases?
Yes. Those two.
What's happened to the calm, demure schoolgirl now? That look. Primitive, cruel, triumphant.
I am not going to disturb my mother again. I acknowledge that the trunk in her room is large and flat-topped. It has been there without interruption for the last 3 years.
Very good, Miss Sharp. And now the garage, if you please. In your statement, Miss Kane, you described the car thus. One of the wheels was painted a different shade from the others and didn't look as if it belonged. The different wheel was the one in front on my side as it was standing at the pavement.
And the near front wheel is a darker shade of grey. What is there to say?
Thank you very much, Miss Sharp. You've been very courteous and helpful, and I'm grateful to you. I shall be able to get you on the telephone any time in the next few days, I suppose, if I want to talk to you further.
Oh, yes, Inspector. We have no intention of going anywhere. Sherry, Mr. Blair?
Thank you. Ah.
We economise, but not on wine. I don't ask you to stay to dinner because our dinner is usually a very scratch supper and not at all what you are used to. How does that girl know about my mother and me and what the house looks like?
No chance of her having made friends with a maid or a gardener.
We've never had a gardener, and we haven't had a maid for a year. Just a girl from the farm who comes in once a week and does the rough cleaning. Mother and I have always lived hand to mouth. My father committed suicide when I was a child. We'd just begun to feel settled down and safe when this happened.
And all because a slip of a girl needs an alibi. We must find out more about Betty Kane.
I can tell you one thing about her. She's oversexed.
Is that feminine intuition?
No. I'm not very feminine, and I have no intuition. But I've never known anyone, man or woman, with eyes that colour who wasn't. That opaque, dark blue. It's infallible. Don't be superior because it isn't lawyer's logic. Have a look at your own friends and see.
Yes. Yes.
It's fascinating to speculate what she really did during that month. It affords me intense satisfaction that somebody beat her black and blue. I hope I may meet him some day so that I may shake his hand.
Him?
With those eyes, it's bound to be a him.
Well, I doubt very much whether Grant has a case he'll want to present in court. It'll be her word against yours, with no backing on either side.
If he did bring it to court and did get a verdict, what would that mean for us?
I'm not sure whether it would be 2 years imprisonment or 7 years penal servitude. I told you I was a broken reed about criminal procedure, but I shall look it up.
Yes, do. There's quite a difference.
Morning, Robert.
Good morning, Neville.
I finished the papers on the Calthorpe transfer, and I thought I would run into Lara this afternoon, if you haven't anything you want me to do.
Can't you talk to her on the telephone?
Oh, it isn't Rosemary this time. She's in London for a week.
A protest meeting at the Albert Hall, I suppose. What is it this time? Vivisection?
You are frightfully last century now and then, Robert. No one objects to vivisection anymore, except a few cranks. The protest is against this country's refusal to give shelter to the patriot Kotovich.
The said patriot is very badly wanted in his own country, I understand.
By his enemies, yes. But if I stay and explain the ramifications of the Kotovich affair to you, I shall be late for the film.
Film?
The French film I'm going into Lara to see.
Hence the pink shirt, the purple tie, and those remarkable tweeds. Young Mr. Bennet. What'll happen to this firm when it finally slips from my grasp? Do you think you could pause long enough to drop this note into the letterbox of the franchise as you go by?
I might. I always wanted to see what was inside that wall. Who lives there now?
An old woman and her daughter.
Daughter?
Middle-aged daughter.
Ah.
This contains very important news that they'll be glad to receive. Make sure they get it. The police are taking no further action in the franchise affair because they lack any corroborative evidence whatsoever.
You can't imagine what a relief your note was. What a charming nephew you have, by the way.
Nephew?
The one who brought the note.
He's not my nephew. He's my cousin. once removed. But I'm glad you liked him. I should like to see you to discuss what we can do next to make you safer. We can't really discuss this over the phone. Ask me to the franchise for Sherry now, please.
Perhaps we could look in at your office on Friday morning. That's when we do our shopping. Or is Friday a busy day for you?
No, Friday will be quite convenient. About noon?
That will do very well. Goodbye, and thank you again.
Damn.
You didn't tell me she was like that.
Who?
The sharp woman. Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't expect you'd meet her. I thought she slept in the afternoons.
I don't believe she ever sleeps. She doesn't belong to the human family at all. She's all fire and metal.
I know she's a very rude old woman, but you have to make allowances.
Old? Who are you talking about?
Old Mrs. Sharp, of course.
I didn't even see old Mrs. Sharp. I'm talking about Marion.
Marion Sharp? How did you know her name was Marion?
Well, she told me. It does suit her, doesn't it? Have you noticed her eyes? That wonderful shading of grey into hazel. I made a poem about them on the way home. Do you want to hear it?
No. Did you enjoy the film?
I didn't go. I had tea with Marion instead.
You mean you've been at the franchise all afternoon?
I suppose so, but it seemed like minutes. I've never met anyone as real as Marion.
Not even Rosemary?
Oh, Rosemary's a darling, and I'm going to marry her, but this is quite different.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yes. People don't marry women like Marion Sharp any more than they marry wind or clouds. She spoke very nicely of you, by the way.
That was very kind of her.
Don't you like her?
As far as I'm concerned, Marion Sharp is just a skinny woman of 40 who lives with a rude old mother in an ugly old house and needs legal advice on occasion like everybody else.
No, she probably isn't your cup of tea. You've always preferred them a bit stupid and blonde, haven't you?
I can't imagine why you think that.
All the women you nearly married were that type.
I have never nearly married anyone.
That's what you think. You'll never know how close Molly Manders came to landing you, till Aunt Lynn stepped in and saved you from yourself.
Morning, Stanley. I just looked in to pay the bill for my car.
Well, I expect it's around somewhere. Have a look. Bill's probably put it over in that pile.
Good God, what's this?
The Emma? Not your sort of newspaper, Mr. Blair.
Girl says yes, what do the police say? That's the franchise.
Nice little number on the front page, isn't she? Reminds me of a bint I had in Egypt. Same far apart eyes. Nice kid she was. Told the most original lies.
It's all here, the whole story. How did they get hold of it? May I borrow this paper?
Keep it. We had it for our 11s. There's nothing in it.
Aren't you interested in the story?
Nah, not really. Only that she reminds me of the kid in Egypt. Lies and all.
So you don't believe her story?
What do you think?
So where do you think she was then all that time?
Well, if I remember what I think I remember about the Red Sea Sadie, I'd say definitely, very definitely, on the tiles.
An odd thing happened this morning. We went to the Anne Boleyn tea rooms for some coffee before we came to you. There were 2 vacant tables, but Miss Truelove said that they were reserved, and she wouldn't serve us. Has the gossip started already?
No. I'm afraid she's read this morning's Emma. I don't suppose you've ever seen this poisonous rag. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I take it that we have no redress against this sort of thing.
None. All the statements are true. And it is statement and not comment. Even if it were comment, there's been no charge, so the case is not sub judice.
The implied comment seems to be that the police have failed to do their duty, and the humble victim has less pull with the police than the wicked rich.
Rich?
Anyone with more than 6 chimneys is apparently rich.
Just consider for a moment, though, ignoring those lies. We know that the girl was never at the franchise.
Do you know it?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we must put all our efforts into proving not that she wasn't at the franchise, but that she was somewhere else.
What chance is there of that?
A better chance than before this rag was published. We couldn't have published her photograph. But now, with any luck, someone will recognize her and will note that the story and the photograph don't fit, because she was somewhere else at the time.
And what can we do in the way of private investigation? You realize, I expect, that we have very little money.
To begin with, I'm going to see the people involved myself and find out something about her, what she was likely to do. Then we can decide what form any inquiry should take. If they talk about her at all, a picture must emerge. At least, I hope so.
You are extraordinarily kind, Mr. Blair.
When will you go?
Directly after lunch.
Today?
Sooner the better.
Then we won't keep you. Your newspaper, Mr. Blair. We enjoyed the privacy of the franchise a great deal.
You wanted me?
Hello, Neville. Have you seen this morning's Ack Emma?
I take it that question is rhetorical?
Take a look. Oh, hello, Aunt Lynn. Be an angel and pack a bag for me. Just a little case and just the minimum. Yes, I'll be into lunch in about 10 minutes. Goodbye till then.
The blasted swine!
What do you make of it?
Make of it? Obvious piece of sensationalism by an unbalanced adolescent.
And if I told you she was a very calm, ordinary schoolgirl, anything but sensational?
You've seen her?
That's why I went to the franchise last week. To be there when Scotland Yard brought the girl to confront them. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, young Neville. She may invite you to tea, but it's me she turns to in trouble.
Robert, what on earth are we going to do about this moppet?
First of all, I'm going to see my old school chum, Kevin McDermott. No charges yet, but I have an unpleasant feeling that the Sharps are going to need a good barrister before very long.
It's beginning, old boy, it's beginning.
What is?
The thickening of that handsome neck of yours.
Oh, well.
Oh, dear God, Robert. Does nothing distress you? Not even the prospect of losing those good looks of yours?
I am a little distressed at the moment, but it isn't my looks.
Well, with Blair, Hayward and Bennett, it can't be bankruptcy, so I suppose it's a woman?
Yes, but not in the way you mean.
Thinking of getting married? You ought to, Rob.
You've said that before.
Well, you want an heir for Blair, Hayward and Bennett, don't you?
There's no guarantee it wouldn't be a girl. Anyway, Neville is taking care of that.
The only thing that young woman of Neville's will ever give birth to is a gramophone record. She was gracing a platform again the other day, I hear. If she had to earn the money for her train fare, she might be not so keen to dash around the country being the vocal minority. I needn't ask if you're up on business. I suppose you dash off again tomorrow morning after a 10 a.m. interview with somebody's solicitor.
No. With Scotland Yard.
Robert, you're slipping. What has the Yard to do with your ivory tower?
That's just it. It's there, on the doorstep, and I don't know how to deal with it. I want to listen to someone being intelligent about it. I don't know why I should unload it onto you, but you always did do my algebra for me.
And you saved me from investing in Topeka tin. On tomorrow. Oh. Your face when I introduced you to her. That blasted English mask of courtesy and good breeding. It said everything. Cured me of her in record time. I've never ceased being grateful to you. So, produce what is in the dispatch case. This is the Ack Emma's protégé, I take it.
I had no idea you read the Ack Emma.
God love you. I feed on the Ack Emma. No crime, no cause célèbre, no Kevin McDermott. Well, only a piece of them. I take it your clients are the two women in the case and not this girl?
Of course.
So tonight Scotland Yard is moving heaven and earth to find corroborative evidence that will back up the girl's story.
I suppose so. But do you believe the girl's story?
I never believe anybody's story. What you want to know is, do I find her story believable? And of course I do.
But it's an absurd story.
There's nothing absurd about it. Women who lead lonely lives do insane things. Especially if they're poor gentlewomen saddled with a big house in the country. What's the most likely form for their mild insanity to take? The capture of a girl to be their servant, of course. The girl they capture happens to be a blameless schoolgirl conveniently far from home. It's their bad luck that she's never been caught out in a lie to date, so everyone's going to take her word against theirs. If I were the police, I'd have risked it. Seems to me they're losing their nerve.
Oh,
Of course, they may have remembered a parallel case where everyone believed the girl and were very thoroughly led up the garden path.
Parallel? When?
17-something, I forget the date.
Oh.
There's no O about it. The nature of alibis hasn't changed much in 2 centuries. If the parallel case is any guide, the girl's story is an alibi.
Then you do believe her story is all nonsense?
A complete invention from beginning to end.
Kevin, you are maddening. You said you found it believable.
So I do. I also find it believable that it's a tissue of lies. I'm not briefed for either side. I could make a very good case for either at a moment's notice. On the whole, I should prefer to be counsel for the young woman from Aylesbury. She'd be wonderful in the witness box. And from what you tell me, neither of the shops will be much help visually to a counsel. More whiskey?
No, thank you.
I wonder what the girl was doing all that month.
Then you do believe... Oh! If you drink so much whiskey on top of claret, what you'll be doing for a month is a cure, my lad.
Oh, Rob, I love you. You're the very essence of England. You sit there so mild and polite and let people think you're an old tabby they can do what they like with, and then wham! Out comes that businesslike Paul with the glove off. And now you are going to have another whiskey, and we are going to set our minds to work.
I'm sorry we refused to answer the telephone last night, but after the 4th or 5th time it was really too much, and we didn't expect you to have news so soon.
Your telephone callers, were they male or female?
1 male, 4 female, as far as I remember. When you rang this morning I thought it was starting up again, but they seem to be late sleepers. They don't really get evil-minded until the evening.
We certainly provided Saturday evening's entertainment for the country youths. They congregated outside and catcalled.
Then they climbed up onto the wall and sat there in a row being offensive.
Lack of education is an extraordinary handicap when one is being offensive. They had no resource at all.
We must see what police protection we can arrange for you. Meanwhile, I have something pleasanter to tell you about the war. I know how the girls saw over it.
You do?
I paid a visit to Mrs. Tilsit, Betty Kane's aunt, the one she was staying with in Mainshill. It's hard to understand why anyone would believe the girl was so happy there she didn't want to go home.
She is, as we know, a convincing liar.
Indeed. Mrs. Tilsit told me, as she'd told the police, that the girl had passed the time going to the pictures or bus riding. So, I paid a visit to the Loughborough and District Motor Services garage. In the fortnight the girl was at Mainshill, there were 2 breakdowns of single-decker buses due to go out on the Milford Road. In each case, a double-decker had to be substituted. So there were at least 2 occasions when she could have seen the house, the courtyard, you two and the car all together.
Or could anyone passing on top of a bus take in so much?
On the upper deck of a country bus, even if it's going at 35 miles an hour, the pace seems funereal. What you can see is so much further away, and you can see it for so much longer. And the other thing is, she has a photographic memory.
How do you know that?
I also visited her guardian, Mrs. Wynne, another surprise. I thought she'd be a comfortable, middle-aged body. She's modern, slim, still pretty, with a pair of extremely intelligent brown eyes. She was a schoolteacher before she married, so she knows a lot about girls. She's devoted to Betty, and claims she's incapable of lying.
Is this part of the pleasanter news you had for us, Mr. Blair?
I'm certainly more hopeful than I was. We know so much more about the girl now. The Wynnes have a son. I met him briefly, an extraordinarily good-looking young man. She apparently fell in love with Leslie when she first came to them as an evacuee. She was scarcely more than a baby. He was 4 years older and felt very protective. He still does. Now, he was the one who went to the Emma. They sent a report around and Betty told him her story. The Wynnes knew nothing about it until Leslie showed them the paper. He got engaged recently. According to Mrs. Wynne, Betty was very nice about it. Not jealous, but obviously missed not coming first with him anymore.
Vanity, do you suppose? Or hurt pride?
Possibly. They weren't worried when she didn't turn up because she'd been getting very bored with school, and they thought she was just trying it on. I asked Mrs. Wynne about the bruising on the girl's body. They were fresh bruises. She'd been badly knocked about, her jaw was swollen, and there was a big bruise on her temple, but it didn't look like a whipping. Mrs. Wynne Cannot believe the girl could have invented such a long, circumstantial story without being found out.
How indeed?
She told her story to the police over a couple of days. The outline first, then filling in the details as she remembered them. Mrs. Wynne was not surprised at her grasp of detail. Even as a small child, she invariably won when they played Kim's game. You know, the objects on a tray.
Oh, do we tell the police this?
No, doesn't prove anything. Just solves the problem of how she knew about you. When she needed an alibi, she remembered you and took a gamble. It was 1,000 to 1 against your being able to say where you were on that day.
And the odds are very much greater against our being able to say what she was doing or where she was on that day.
I'm afraid so. As my friend Kevin McDermott says, she could have been in Australia. There was only one thing that puzzled Mrs. Wynne that she couldn't explain. The girl had a lipstick in the pocket of her dress when she came home.
What do you think she was doing?
I think she met someone in Loughborough. Let us call him X. I think that's where any inquiry of ours should start.
And what do we do about engaging an agent?
Well, I thought you might let me pursue my own inquiries a little further before engaging a professional.
Mr. Blair, you have been called into this unpleasant case without warning, and you have been very kind to us. We are not rich, but as long as we have any money at all, we shall pay for what services are proper. And it is not proper that you should turn yourself into a Sexton Blake for our benefit.
It may not be proper, but it is very much to my taste. It has become a personal hunt. Please don't discourage me. The time will come when I have to turn it over to a proper agent. I have too many other commitments to follow it far. But as long as it's on our doorstep, I want to be the one. Unless you think you would be better served.
I don't think we would be better served by anyone. If it really would please you to run down this
Moppet.
Mopsy, then we can only agree and be grateful. Marion, there is still some of that Amontillado, I think.
I'll go and get it.
It seems to me the girl took a great risk choosing the franchise, knowing nothing of the household or its circumstances. For all she knew, there could have been a house full of young people or 3 maidservants.
I think she gossiped with the bus conductor. Or, and I think this is more likely, she overheard something from one of the other passengers. You know the kind of thing. There are the Sharps. Fancy living in a big house like that, just the two of them. They can't get any servants to stay. It's so far from the shops and the pictures and so on. It's very much a local house.
Take a look out of the window, Mr. Blair. We seem to have attracted quite a crowd.
Back to loser again, Mr. Blair.
It isn't a bet, Stanley. It's human nature.
You start to be sorry about human nature, you won't have time for anything else. Been trying to reform somebody?
I've been trying to get somebody to wipe slogans off the walls of the franchise. We chased away a crowd of sightseers the other day, but they're back with a vengeance.
Slogans?
In best quality white paint. Fascists, foreign bitches, get out or we'll make you. Nobody I've tried wants the job of cleaning it up. They seem to think that those women deserve it.
When I was in the Signals, I was given a free tour of Italy, and I got quite a phobia about slogans on walls. So, what's the good of owning the most modern and best-equipped garage in Milford if you can't get rid of a spot of paint? Bill'll give me a hand.
Bless you both. I just want those slogans off before breakfast. I'll come along and help.
Not in that Savile Row suit you won't. You cut along home. You, don't mind if the wall's a bit smeary, do you? We're just good-intentioned garage hands, not decorators.
I've some good news for you. I have established the fact that X exists. She had tea with him in the Midland Hotel in Loughborough.
How did you find that out?
I've known Albert, the head waiter at the Midland, for years. He'd noticed this demure little girl in a green hat and dress, pale grey coat and black court shoes, sitting alone, day after day, taking tea. Looked as if she were waiting for her maiden aunt to join her. One day there was a young businessman at the next table working on some papers. The girl crossed over to his table, engaged him in conversation, and then joined him. They left together.
Do we know who X is?
He wasn't one of their regulars. He may have just called in for tea. I think this is where I need to hand over to a professional to track him down.
Whatever you think best.
You've had a bad day at the franchise, haven't you?
Yes. I feel dirty all over. What was worse than the audience and the wall was the post. The postman gave it to the police to deliver. It's not often the police can be accused of disseminating obscene literature.
You want me to give you the name of a private agent, is that it? Well, so far you have no proof of anything that would stand up in court. In fact, the only leg you have to stand on is Alec Ramsden, 5 Spring Gardens, Fulham, your private sleuth. He'll do you proud. And if there's anything else I can do, just give me a ring. I wish I had time to come down and see the franchise and your witches for myself. They grow on me. Goodbye.
Do please sit down, Inspector Grant. I take it that you're here about the franchise affair.
Yes, Mr. Blair. I have a warrant.
A search warrant?
No. A warrant to arrest. You hadn't expected this.
No. To be frank, it's a great shock. You have new evidence?
Yes. What we think is conclusive evidence. We have a man who saw Betty Kane being picked up by a car.
A car?
Yes, if you like. But its description fits that of the Sharps.
So do 10,000 others in Britain, and?
The girl from the farm, who went once a week to help clean the franchise, swears that she heard screams coming from the attic. She spoke about it to friends, and she is willing to repeat the story on oath.
Did she speak about it to her friends before the gossip about Betty Kane's abduction got around?
Yes.
Ah. Thank you for being so frank. But this is a misdemeanor, not felony you're accusing them of. Surely a summons would meet the case. There's no question of their not being there to answer the charge, nor of a similar crime being committed by them in the interval. When did you want them to appear, by the way?
At the police court on Monday.
Then I suggest you serve them with a summons to appear. If the franchise is left without occupants, it'll be a wreck within a week. Not a day passes without a mob of sightseers trespassing and bawling insults at the Sharps. Disgusting slogans have been painted on the walls. One of the men, Stanley Peters, who offered to clean up the walls, was injured when one of the louts hit him with a bottle and cut his head open just above the eye. Most of the windows on the ground floor have been smashed. Bricks, with threatening letters wrapped round them, have been hurled at 2 defenceless women. They refused to leave their house unattended, bravely but perhaps unwisely. But, as Mrs. Sharp pointed out, if the police didn't have the forces to protect the human beings who lived there, there was little chance they'd be able to protect their property. So Stanley Peters is acting as a night watchman for them to prevent any further acts of violence. If the mob, already incited to violence by that filthy rag...
I share your contempt for the act, Emma, as do my superiors. Well, Mr. Blair, you've convinced me. You've done me out of an arrest this afternoon, but I don't hold it against you. I think your clients are luckier than they deserve. I'll be in the police court on Monday. And if we avoid a remand, the case can go straight on to the assizes. Now, can you be ready with your defence by Monday, do you think?
Inspector, with all the defence my clients have, we could be ready by tea time.
You mean we have to appear in a public court to answer, to be accused of a thing like that?
I'm afraid there's no alternative. The new evidence is... serious. You told me once that you had a girl from the farm to clean for you, 1 day a week.
Rose Glynn, yes.
But since the gossip got round, she doesn't come anymore?
The gossip? Oh, she was sacked long before any gossip came to light.
That might explain a lot. What did you sack her for?
Stealing.
She was always taking a shilling or 2 from the purse if it was left around, but we needed help, so we turned a blind eye. But then she took a watch I'd had for 20 years. It was almost a part of me. I'd taken it off when I was doing the washing. When I went back to look for it, it had gone. She hadn't seen it, of course. So that afternoon we walked over to the farm and told her we wouldn't be needing her anymore. That was Tuesday. She always came on Monday, and that afternoon Inspector Grant arrived with Betty Kane in the car.
I see. Was anyone else there when you sacked her?
No, I don't think so.
How did she take it?
She got very pink and flounced a bit.
She went as red as a beetroot and bridled like a turkey cock. Why do you ask?
Because she will say, on oath, that when she was working here she heard screams coming from the attic. What is much worse, There is evidence that she mentioned the screams before there was any rumour of the Betty Kane trouble.
Oh, how I wish we had one small piece of evidence on our side. That girl gets away with everything. I could kill her.
Sit down, Marion. A tantrum won't improve the situation.
Think of the day when she's discredited in open court. I believe that will hurt Miss Kane a great deal worse than the beating someone gave her.
Do you believe that's possible?
Yes, I do.
Is that just native optimism, Mr. Blair, or your innate belief in the triumph of good?
I think truth has a validity of its own.
Well, frankly, I don't look forward to a life in prison waiting for truth to demonstrate its validity.
I don't think it will come to that.
Does Kevin McDermott have to look like a tout when he comes to the country?
More like a slightly disreputable trainer of jumpers, I'd have said.
Do you think he could be lured into coming down to defend them at Norton Assizes?
I think he's too busy for that. But I'm hoping one of his dog's bodies, primed by him, will come.
I don't see why Marion should have to slave in that antediluvian kitchen to provide lunch for him.
It was her idea. She insisted we go to the franchise. She's very excited about something. She wants me to take Betty Kane's statement with me.
I had a lovely time the other night. I found a book on torture, and I stayed awake till 2 o'clock, choosing which one I'd use on Kane.
That's Marion's ambition as well.
And what would yours be?
I'm going to undress her in public.
What?
Not that way. I'm going to strip her of every rag of pretense so that everyone will see her for what she is.
Chicken pot au feu. How splendid. And oh my God, a Montrachet, you wonderful woman.
I was brought up to appreciate wine. My husband had a fairly good cellar, though his palate was not as good as mine. My brother at Lessways had a better one, and a palate to match.
Lessways? You're not Charlie Meredith's sister, are you?
I am? Did you know, Charles? Oh, but you couldn't. You're too young.
The first pony I ever had of my own was bred by Charlie Meredith, and he never put a foot wrong. What an incredible coincidence.
And now you are invited to inspect the fatal attic.
And this is the view she described?
Inside the gate, the carriageway went straight for a little, then divided in two into a circle up to the door.
Ha!
You see? We knew that her description was accurate,
Except for one tiny detail. That was something she didn't reckon with. My advice is that we give them the police court and save this titbit as a make-weight for the assizes.
Whom can we get for the defence?
Oh, it's just possible I might be able to come down myself. Let me see. Yes, I don't see why I shouldn't. Short of the unforeseen. It would give me great pleasure to defend them against that nasty piece of work. How odd your mother should be Charlie Meredith's sister. One of the best, old Charlie. The only approximately honest horsecoper known in history. It isn't possible that his sister could have abducted anybody.
It's a wonder, isn't it, how so many people have so little to do on a Monday morning. Look at them, all here to see St. Bernadette in person. After the Ac Emma, the fan mail, and the offers of marriage, she must find our little police court far too small a stage.
I can't wait to see this floozy in the flesh.
Oh, no. An angel-faced child alone against the world. Nobody will ever believe she's kissed anything but the book. Uh-oh. Here we go.
You are Betty Kane of 45 Acacia Avenue, Aylesbury?
I am.
And did you in fact mend the linen?
I was too stiff from the beating that night. But I mended some later, and they gave me some stew.
Just as if she was saying I was too busy playing bridge. Such an extraordinary air of truth about her.
Do you wish to examine Mr. Blair?
No, sir. I have no questions.
You are Rose Glynn of...
Miss Rose Glynn had better stop flashing those unnaturally perfect teeth at all and sundry.
I am.
The bench don't like her one little bit.
I used to go to the franchise every Monday to clean the house. One Monday, in April, as I was about to leave, I heard screaming coming from upstairs. It sounded far away, as if it was coming from the attic. I was just going upstairs when Mrs. Sharp came out of the drawing room and asked me what I was doing. I said someone was screaming upstairs. Mrs. Sharp said it was nonsense and I was imagining things and it was time I went home. Then Miss Sharp came downstairs and went with Mrs. Sharp, and Mrs. Sharp said something about ought to be more careful. I was frightened, so I went into the kitchen and got my money from the mantelpiece where it always was, and I ran home. That was April 15th. I remember the date because I decided then that the next time I went back I'd give them a week's notice. I have not worked there since April 29th.
Melodramatic little slut you wouldn't trust with a sixpence. But the evidence is lethal.
Yes.
And it's supported by little friend Glattis Reese as well. Frightened little skinned rabbit. Easy to see why the painted doll is best friends with her.
I was walking up to Highwood with Rose, and she told me she was scared of the franchise because she heard somebody screaming from the room upstairs. And I know it was April 15th because Rose told me she was going to give notice next week. And she didn't work for them shops again because she told me from April 29th she didn't go there again.
I wonder what dear Rose has got on her. The poor silly little rat's frightened stiff. Has the painted doll got a lever of some kind? Worth looking into, perhaps.
Do you happen to know the number of your watch? The one Rose Glynn stole?
I didn't even know watches had numbers. It was very distinctive, though. It had a pale blue enamel face with gold figures. But even if I got it back, I could never bear to wear it after that girl.
It's not so much getting it back as convicting her of having taken it I was thinking of.
Oh, Robert, I am so glad I refused to let you push me away that first day.
I hope you'll still be as glad when this case is over.
We have not yet thanked you for standing surety for our bail.
If we began to thank him for all we owe him, there would be no end to it.
Apart from enlisting Kevin McDermott on your side, what have I managed to do for you? You'll go to trial at Norton in a fortnight's time with no defence whatever.
Hello, Stanley. What brings you here?
Morning. I think you ought to take charge of this. Those women at the franchise have got no sense at all. Keep pound notes in teapots and books and whatnot. 120 quid. Nice, ain't it?
Where did this come from?
Kaminsky.
Kaminsky?
Don't tell me you didn't have anything on it. After the old lady gave us the tip herself.
Stan, I haven't even remembered there was such a thing as the Guinness, so you backed it.
At 60 to 1, and that's the 10th I told her she was on to for the tip.
A 10th? You must have been plunging, Stan.
£20. Won by a length and a half on a tight rein. That was a turn-up for the book.
Don't you want to give this money to Mrs. Sharp yourself?
Not me. You'll be going up there sometime today, and you can give it to her if you like. But see you get it back and put it in the bank, or they'll be sticking it in flower vases and wondering what they've done with it.
Why did Stan mind about giving it to us himself?
It may be because he thinks you need it now, and that makes it a delicate affair instead of a matter-of-fact one.
Well, not all my tips have a margin of a length and a half, but I don't deny I'm glad to see the money. It was very nice of the boy.
Should we keep as much as 10%?
That was the agreement. If it hadn't been for me, he would be short by the amount of a bet on Ballyboogie. What is a Ballyboogie, by the way?
I'm glad you came. Something unexpected's happened. My watch has come back.
In a dirty little box, with a torn scrap of paper with "I don't want none of it." Printed, of course, with a capital I dotted like a small letter, after the fashion of illiterates.
Why do you think she's turned squeamish about it?
I don't think she has. I don't think this is Rose Glynn. If she'd wanted to be rid of it, she'd have thrown it in the pond without a second thought. But somebody wants to be rid of it, and has a bad conscience. And is very frightened. Glattis Reese, perhaps?
Yes. You're right about Rose. She would never have sent it back. You think she gave it to Glattis Reese?
To back up her screaming story, perhaps.
May I take the cardboard box and the note? I'd like to give them to Mr. Ramsden, my sleuth, and see what he finds.
You are a marvel, Rob. I'll make mincemeat of them.
Yes, Ramsden's done well.
You don't sound very cheerful. Is it getting you down?
Even if the Sharps are saved from prison, they'll still be in a prison of Betty Kane's making.
Cheer up, Rob. I'll do my best with the howler over the pathway. Indeed, if Miles Allison weren't prosecuting, I could probably break her with it. At the very least, her credit will be seriously shaken.
That's not enough, Kevin. The Ack Emma has been spewing out its poison day after day. The public's had its mind made up for it. She'll get away with it, and she'll go back to her adoring family, and the Sharps will stay condemned. We've got to break her alibi. Ramsden's working on it, but we're getting nowhere. We know the man she met at the Midland Hotel is called Bernard Chadwick, but that's all. Complete blank. We don't know who he works for, or where he was during that month, or where he is now. Nothing short of a miracle can save us, old friend.
If it weren't for you, Mr. Blair, we shouldn't be rejoicing today.
If it weren't for Alexander Bell, you mean? It'll be months before I can look at a telephone without blenching.
Did you take turnabout?
No, we each had our own. Kevin and his clerk in his chambers, me in a little place near St. Paul's, Alec Ramsden and 3 of his men at his office, 7 of us with 6 telephones, and we needed them.
Poor Robert.
I was so sick of the telephone that when it rang, I nearly didn't pick it up. I'd almost forgotten that telephones were two-way. It was just a sort of quiz instrument that I could plug into. I just stared at it, then I realized someone was trying to call me for a change.
And it was Mr. Ramsden.
He just said, "We've got him." But the whole lovely result will be waiting for us in the court tomorrow. Kevin can hardly wait.
If it was ever in my power to be sorry for that girl, it would be in a witness box, facing Kevin McDermott. Well, I suppose it's time we were going.
I'll put your overnight bags in my car while you lock up.
Thank you. If anyone had told me last week that I should be leaving the franchise to go to the assizes with a light heart, I would not have believed it. Poor Stanley can sleep in his own bed from now on, instead of guarding a couple of hags in a lonely house.
Isn't he sleeping here tonight?
No. Why should he? The policeman will be around on his beat. It's only for one night.
Hello?
Stan here, Mr. Blair. Can you come back to Milford? The franchise is on fire.
What? Badly?
Well, it's got a good hold, but they think they can save it.
So I'll be over as soon as I can make it.
Oh, there you are. I thought you ought to know. There isn't enough water. We've got a lot of the stuff out. The drawing room stuff they used every day. We flung out some of the upstairs stuff. But all the heavy stuff's gone up.
Let's take this furniture further away. It's not safe where it is.
Look out! The first floor's going! God, it's bright.
Stan, look over there. Those 2 youths. What are they grinning for?
Oh, yeah. Oi! You two! What do you know about all this? Or need I ask?
Ah! It's your handiwork, isn't it?
Oh! Neat. Very neat, Mr. Blair. Watch it! The roof's coming down! Well, that seems to be that.
How did it begin?
Nobody knows. It was well alight by the time P.C. Newsom came round on his beat.
What became of those 2 chaps, by the way?
The 2 we corrected. They went home.
It's a pity that gloating expression isn't evidence.
They won't get anybody for this. Like the broken windows. And I still owe somebody for that crack on the head. How are you going to tell them?
God knows. I think I'll leave it till after the trial.
Yeah. Yeah, let them have their triumph. Don't mess it up.
Miss Kane, you say it was dark when you arrived at the franchise. Too dark to see the outside of the house?
Yes, much too dark.
And then the night you escaped, perhaps that was not quite so dark.
Oh, yes. That was even darker, if possible.
Oh, so you could not possibly have seen the outside of the house on some occasion?
Never.
Never. Well, let us consider what you say you could see from the window of your prison in the attic. You said in your statement to the police that the carriageway from the gate to the door went straight for a little, then divided in two into a circle up to the door. How did you know it did that?
How did I know? I could see it.
From where?
From the window in the attic. It looked out onto the courtyard in front of the house.
But from the window in the attic, it is possible to see only the straight part of the carriageway. The edge of the roof cuts off the rest. How do you know that the carriageway divided in two and made a circle up to the door?
I saw it.
How?
From that window.
You want us to understand that you see on a different principle from ordinary beings?
It is the way I described.
Oh, certainly it is the way you described. But what you described was the view of the courtyard as seen by, let us say, somebody looking over the wall at it, not by someone looking at it from the window in the attic, which you assure us was your only view of it. So, you cannot explain how, speaking to the police that day in Aylesbury, you described a peculiarity that you could not possibly have known about if your story was true. Have you ever been abroad, Miss Kane?
Abroad? No.
Never?
No, never.
You have not, for instance, been to Denmark lately?
No.
Do you know a man called Bernard Chadwick?
No.
You did not, for instance, stay with him at a hotel in Copenhagen?
No, I've never been abroad at all.
So that if I were to suggest that you spent those missing weeks in a hotel in Copenhagen and not in an attic at the franchise, I should be mistaken?
Quite mistaken.
Thank you.
Mr. Allison.
Miss Kane, you arrived at the franchise by car?
Yes.
And that car, you say in your statement, was driven up to the door of the house? Now, if it was dark, as you say, there must have been side lights on the car, if not headlights, which would illuminate not only the carriageway, but most of the courtyard.
Yes, yes, of course. I must have seen the circle then. I knew I'd seen it. I knew it.
Now, Glattis, I am going to suggest that you did not want to come here today and give evidence against these two people at the franchise.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
But you came.
Yes?
Why? Because you thought it was your duty?
No. Oh, no.
Was it because someone forced you to come? Someone who held something over your head? Someone who said, you say what I tell you to say or I'll tell about you?
I don't know.
This court, all the people you see here today, have come here to find out the truth about something. And what is more, there is a very heavy punishment for persons who take an oath to speak truth and tell what is not true. But if it so happened that they had been frightened into telling lies by someone threatening them, then the person who would be punished most would be the person who made the threats. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, I am going to suggest to you what really happened, and you will tell me whether I am right. Now, someone, a friend of yours perhaps, took something from the franchise, let us say, a watch. She did not want the watch herself, perhaps, and she handed it to you? Now, I suggest that presently that friend proposed to you that you should back up a story that she was going to tell in court, and because you don't like telling lies, you said no. And then your friend said to you, if you don't back me up, I shall say that you stole the watch. I think that you did go to the police court and back up her story, but when you got home you were sorry and ashamed, and so you wrapped up the watch and sent it back to the franchise with a note saying, I don't want none of it. I suggest to you, Glattis, that that is what really happened.
No, I never had that watch.
When you were at school you were very good at drawing. Well, I have here a map of Canada, a very neat map, which won you a prize. You have signed it here in the corner. Well, I'm sure you were very proud to sign it. You made that map yourself?
Yes.
And wrote your name in the corner and printed Dominion of Canada across the bottom?
Yes.
Good. Now, I have here that scrap of paper on which someone wrote the words, I don't want none of it. and which was enclosed with the watch that was sent back to the franchise. I suggest that the printing on the map is the same as that on the note, that it was written by the same hand, and that hand was yours.
No.
But you did print those letters on the map.
Yes.
Well, I shall bring evidence that these two printings are by the same hand, and that the fingerprints on both the map and the scrap of paper are those of you, Glattis Reese. You are Bernard William Chadwick, a buyer of porcelain, fine china and fancy goods of various kinds for a wholesale firm in London. You are married and live with your wife in Ealing?
Yes.
In March this year, did you pay a visit to Loughborough?
Yes.
In Loughborough, did you meet Betty Kane?
Yes.
How did you meet her?
She picked me up. I dropped into the Midland Lounge for tea one day, and she began to talk to me. She was having tea there.
You didn't speak to her at first?
I didn't even notice her.
So how did she call attention to her presence, then?
She smiled, and I smiled back, and went on with my papers. Then she spoke to me. She said she was going to the flicks, and would I come too? Well, I was finished for the day, and she seemed a cute kid, so I said yes. The result was she met me next day and went out to the country in my car with me.
On your business trips, you mean?
Yes. She came for the ride, and we'd have a meal somewhere in the country and tea before she went back to her aunt's place.
And did she talk about her people to you?
Yes. She said how unhappy she was at home. She had a long string of complaints, but I didn't take much notice. She looked a pretty sleek little outfit to me.
And how long did this idyll in Loughborough persist?
It turned out we were leaving Loughborough on the same day. She was going back to her people because her holiday was over. She'd already extended it so she could run about with me. I was due to fly to Copenhagen on business. She asked me to take her with me. I said nothing doing. I didn't think she was so much of an innocent child as she seemed. But she was only 16, after all.
She told you she was 16?
She had her 16th birthday in Loughborough. It cost me a gold lipstick.
You had no idea she was actually still 15?
No, not till the other day.
So when she made the suggestion she should go with you, you considered she was an inexperienced child of 16?
Yes.
What made you change your mind?
She convinced me that she wasn't.
Wasn't what?
Inexperienced.
So you took her abroad with you?
Yes.
As your wife?
Yes, as my wife.
Do you remember the date on which you left Loughborough?
Yes, I picked her up at a coach stop in Mains Hill on the afternoon of March the 28th. That was where she would normally have got her bus home.
So you took her with you to Copenhagen for how long?
A fortnight.
And then?
We came back to England together on the 15th of April. She told me that she was due back on the 16th, but on the way home, she told me she'd been due back on the 11th and she'd been missing for 4 days. So it would be impossible for her to go back. She was going to write to her people and say she had a job and was quite happy and they were not to look for her.
She had no compunction about the suffering this would cause parents who were devoted to her?
No. She said her home bored her so much she could scream.
What was your reaction to this new situation?
I was pretty angry. Put me in a spot.
Were you worried about the girl?
No, not particularly.
Why not?
By then I knew she was well able to take care of herself.
What exactly do you mean by that?
I mean, whoever was going to suffer in any situation she created, it wouldn't be Betty Kane. After a lot of talk, I decided the best thing to do would be to take her down to my bungalow on the river, near Bourne End. We used it for weekends in the summer, but only rarely for the rest of the year. She agreed, so I drove her down there.
Did you stay with her that night?
Yes.
And the following night?
I spent that at home in Ealing.
Was your wife not surprised that you did not sleep at home more often?
Not unbearably.
And how did the situation at Bourne End disintegrate?
I went down there one night and found she'd gone.
You heard the girl, Betty Kane, give evidence today? Evidence that she had been forcibly detained in a house near Melford?
Yes.
That is the girl who went with you to Copenhagen, stayed there for a fortnight with you, and subsequently lived with you in a bungalow near Bourne End?
Yes. That is the girl.
You have no doubt about it?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Chadwick, this is a very belated story, isn't it?
Belated?
Yes, this case has been a matter for press report and public comment for the past 3 weeks or thereabouts. You must have known that 2 women were being wrongfully accused if your story was true. If, as you say, Betty Kane was with you and not as she says at the franchise, why did you not go straight to the police and tell them so?
Because I didn't know anything about it.
How was that?
I've been abroad again for my firm. I knew nothing about this case until a couple of days ago.
I see. You have heard the girl give evidence, and you've heard the doctor's evidence as to the condition in which she arrived home. Does anything in your story explain that?
No.
It was not you who beat the girl?
No.
You say you went down one night and found her gone, and all her belongings and her luggage had disappeared with her?
Yes.
And yet she arrived home without any belongings of any sort and wearing only a dress and shoes?
I didn't know that till much later.
So when you went down to the bungalow, you found it tidy and deserted with no sign of any hasty departure?
Yes, that's how I found it.
Mrs. Chadwick, when did you begin to suspect that your husband had developed an interest elsewhere?
When a friend told me that he had a guest down at the bungalow. He attracts them like flies.
So what did you do, or plan to do?
What I always do with flies. I swat them.
So you went down to the bungalow with the intention of swatting whatever fly was there?
Yes.
And what did you find at the bungalow?
The door was unlocked, so I walked straight in and into the sitting room. A woman's voice called from the bedroom. "Is that you, Barney? I've been so lonely for you." I went in and found her lying on the bed in the kind of negligee you used to see in vamp films about 10 years ago. She looked a mess, and I was a bit surprised at Barney. She was eating chocolates out of an enormous box. Terribly 1930s, the whole setup.
Please confine your story to the essentials, Mrs. Chadwick.
Yes, sorry. Well, we had the usual exchange.
The usual?
Yes. The "what are you doing here" stuff. The wronged wife and the light of love, you know. But for some reason or other, she got in my hair. I don't know why. I'd never cared very much about the others. I mean, we just had a good row with no real hard feelings on either side. But there was something about this little tramp that turned my stomach.
Please, Mrs. Chadwick.
Right. Sorry. But I did think I was supposed to tell it in my own words. Well, there came a point where I couldn't stand this flues. I got to a stage where she riled me past bearing. I pulled her off the bed and gave her a smack on the side of the head. She looked so surprised. It was funny. It would seem no one had ever hit her in her life. She said, "You hit me?" Just like that. And I said, "A lot of people are going to hit you from now on, my poppet," and gave her another one. Well, from then on, it was just a fight. I own quite frankly that the odds were all on my side. I was bigger, for one thing, and in a flaming temper. I tore that silly negligee off her, and it was ding-dong till she tripped over one of her mules that was lying on the floor and went sprawling. I waited for her to get up, but she didn't, and I thought she'd passed out. I went into the bathroom to get a cold, wet cloth, and I mopped her face. And then I went into the kitchen to make some coffee. I'd cooled off by then. I thought she'd be glad of something when she'd cooled off too. But when I got back to the bedroom, I found that the faint had all been an act. The girl had let out. She'd had time to dress, so I took it for granted that she'd dressed in a hurry and gone.
And did you go too?
I waited for an hour, thinking Barney might come. All the girl's things were lying about, so I slung them all into her suitcase and put it in the cupboard under the stairs to the attic. And I opened all the windows. She must have put her scent on with a ladle. And then when Barney didn't come, I went away. A couple of days later, I told him what I'd done.
And what was his reaction?
He said it was a pity her mother hadn't done the same thing 10 years ago.
And if you had realized that this girl was Elizabeth Kane, you would have informed the police? You would not have hesitated, owing to the fact that it was you who administered the beating?
No, I'd administer another tomorrow if I got the chance.
Do you intend to divorce your husband?
No, certainly not.
This evidence of yours and his is not a neat little piece of collusion?
No, I wouldn't need collusion. I've got no intention of divorcing Barney. He's fun, and he's a good provider. What more do you want in a husband?
And do you affirm that the girl you have described is the girl sitting here in court?
Yes, I do.
Silence in court! Silence in court!
We'd better wait till the crowd thins out, then they'll let us out the back way.
That poor woman. The girl's mother, Mrs. Wynne. I can't think of anything else. Can you imagine anything more frightful? To have lost the roof over one's head is bad. Oh, yes, Robert, my dear, you don't have to tell us about the fire. We have seen the stop press item in the Loughborough Times. Yesterday, that would have seemed an enormous tragedy, but today, compared to that woman's Calvary, it seems an incident.
She has a charming son. I hope he will be a comfort to her.
Didn't it please you, though, to see the police converging on the perjurers?
Well, I suppose we'd best go to a hotel for a night or two. Have we any belongings at all? I cannot say that the idea of the Rose and Crown appeals to me greatly.
Stanley suggested that you might be more comfortable at his landlady's. She has a house in the New Town.
Oh, that is very kind. We would prefer that.
I suppose tomorrow life will begin again, and be the usual mixture of good and bad. But tonight, it's just a place where dreadful things happen.
Will you golf with me tomorrow, Marion? Or in a day or two when you've settled in? You've been cooped up too long. We could start early and have the course to ourselves. I want you to marry me, Marion.
Do you, Robert?
You will, won't you?
No, Robert, dear. I won't.
Why? Why not, I mean?
Oh, as they say, because.
Because why?
Half a dozen reasons. For one, if a man is not married by the time he's 40, marriage isn't one of the things he wants out of life. And I would always be the woman in the cane case, an uncomfortable sort of wife for the senior partner of Blair, Haywood and Bennett.
I'm not asking you to marry Blair, Haywood and Bennett.
Then you have Aunt Lynn, and I have my mother. We can't just park them like pieces of chewing gum. I like my mother. I enjoy living with her. You'd miss all the cosseting that I wouldn't know how to give you, and wouldn't give you if I knew how.
It's because you don't cosset me that I want to marry you, because you have an adult mind.
An adult mind is very nice to go to dinner with once a week, but you'd find it a poor exchange for good pastry in an uncritical atmosphere.
There's one thing you haven't even mentioned. Don't you care for me at all?
Yes, I care for you a great deal. More than I've ever cared for anyone. But I am not a marrying woman. I don't want to put up with someone else's crotchets, someone else's demands, someone else's cold in the head. No, Robert, there are 100,000 women just panting to look after some man's cold. Why pick on me?
Because you are that one woman in 100,000, and I love you.
Oh, I sound flippant, don't I? But what I say is good sound sense.
So, what are you going to do now you've lost the franchise?
We're going to Canada. I have a cousin who's a professor at McGill. He asked us some time ago if we would go out to keep house for him. We had the franchise then and were happy, so we said no. But the offer is still open, and we both will be glad to go now.
I see.
Don't look so downcast. You don't know what an escape you are having, my dear.
My very dear Robert.
Just to let you know that we are both thinking of you. We leave on the morning plane to Montreal the day after tomorrow. Now that the moment is here, we have discovered that what we both remember are the good and lovely things, and that the rest fade to insignificance. This may be only nostalgia in advance, I don't know. I only know that it will always be happiness to remember you. Our united love to you and our gratitude. Marion Sharp.
He laid the letter down on his brass and mahogany desk, in the patch of sunlight. Tomorrow at this time, Marion would no longer be in England. It was a desolating thought. But there was nothing to do but be sensible about it. And then Aunt Lynn rang up and asked him to call for the fish on his way home. And Miss Tuff brought in his tea.
Your tea, Mr. Blair.
He looked for a long moment at the 2 digestive biscuits on his plate. Then, with a gentle finality, he pushed the tray out of his way and reached for the telephone.
Robert, have you come to see us off?
No, I'm travelling by this plane.
Travelling? You are?
It's a public conveyance, you know.
I know, but you're going to Canada?
I am.
What for?
To see my sister in Saskatchewan. Much better pretext than a cousin at McGill.
Oh, Robert, my dear, you can't imagine how revolting you are when you look smug.
In The Franchise Affair by Josephine Tey, Marion was played by Tessa Peake-Jones, Mrs. Sharp by Margaret Tyzack, and Robert by Ben Daniels. Kevin McDermott was Aidan McCardle, Inspector Grant, Stephen McNichol, Betty Kane, Emily Pennant-Ray, Neville, Guy Fearon, Stanley, Samuel James, Rose Glynn, Francesca Diamond, Gladys Reese, Laura Reese, Chadwick, Jonathan Dryden-Taylor, Mrs. Chadwick, Leela Hackett, Miles Allison, Sam Parks, and the voice of Josephine Tey, Alison Skilbeck. The play was directed by Ellen Dryden. The Franchise Affair was an independent production by First Rights Radio for BBC Radio 4.